Hello, WoW community. My name is John McConnell. I'm a senior character artist for Team 2. Today I'm going to be drawing Sire Denathrius. Let's get started. First thing I'll do is I'll start with a circle. Now, when I first start drawing, we're going to kind of keep things nice and light. And then we're going to find kind of the center point. And then we're gonna cross that out, and that's what we're gonna use to place his features. So there's step one. Step two, we're gonna do a little bit more construction here. Let's find the center of the side of his head. We're gonna use this center marker to find his jaw. Go ahead and drop the back side of his face. And then cap it off with the chin. And then we're gonna use the same intersection we created to place his ear. So let's go ahead and do that. And just kind of swoop it in, and then finish it off with his earlobe. And then we just connect his earlobe to the back of his jaw. And then we're gonna go ahead and just throw in a little triangle, kind of a temporary triangle to kind of mark out where his nose is gonna be. And then we're gonna finish off step two by finding out where his neck is, and just kind of roughly estimating where that's gonna be. And there's step two. Step three, we're gonna go ahead and start adding more elements to our Denathrius drawing here. We'll go ahead and start with his eyebrows here. We're gonna find out where his brows are, and we're just gonna mark them in right now. Now that we have his eyebrows in, we'll go ahead and start throwing in his horns. And it worked out where his horns should be about halfway down his forehead. Yeah. Now we'll go ahead and find out where his mouth is. Go ahead and put a little mark in for his mouth. And then we'll start to frame his face with his hair. Go ahead and bring his bangs out. And then we'll do the same thing for the foreground. I think this is kind of too far out. It's about the same. And as you go along, you can kind of erase what you no longer need. Do something like that. Let's go back. Let me do that bit. There we go. It's closer to what I wanted. Then we'll go ahead and start to erase some of that out. Kind of mark out where the back of his hair is going to be. And then that's step three. Step four, let's start to get his eyes in there. Now, using that same original plus sign that we kind of put at the beginning, we're going to use that to line up where his eyes are going to go. After that, we'll go ahead and start to work his crown in. We'll have the tip kind of we'll use that center line to figure out where his crown's going to be. And the very tip of it should be about halfway down his forehead, a little bit, little more than halfway down. Kind of sweep it up, and then sweep the top back, and then we'll go ahead and set gem in there. And then we'll also put a little bit of the crown poking out of the back of his hair. And then we'll go ahead and bring some of his hair in the foreground forward, as well as finish up, or kind of finish the shape of this background hair a little bit. That's better. And then we'll go on to step 4. Step 4, we're going to continue to kind of refine a little bit more of what we've drawn so far. So this horn, I'm going to kind of actually complete that horn. And then we're going to kind of play with the shape of the head a little bit so it doesn't feel as like a simple round shape. He actually has kind of like the shape of a skull. He's got his forehead planes kind of in the set correctly. We're also going to start to kind of add a little bit more detail to his face. So we'll draw in his bottom lip. We'll also kind of work in some of the details of his nose, get the tip of his nose in there, as well as kind of define his nostrils. So at this point, we're starting to try to change some of those more primitive shapes we put down in the construction and placement process or phase, and we're starting to kind of define what all these simple shapes are at this point, and then also cleaning up any unwanted or unneeded line work. I'll go ahead and clean up his hair here, thinking about how this hair is kind of draping over the shoulders of Denathrius. Since we're not actually drawing his shoulders, we're just kind of implying that they're there with the shape of his hair. It's pretty good. If you're on and I would recommend you do this in pencil and paper if you're not working in Photoshop, because you're going to want to be able to erase. And if you're working on pen, it's a little bit more advanced if you're coming at it from a novice standpoint. And then we'll move on to step 5, where it's just more refinement. We start to add a little bit more into the drawing. We take a little bit out. So here I'm taking out a lot. And then with the horns, I'm gonna want to start to actually show that this horn is sitting on his head at more of an angle, not just kind of stuck onto it on the side. Kind of clean this shape up, or this line up a little bit. And sometimes that refinement process means you're going to erase something you already drew and redraw it. At least for me, that's how it works. detail into his ear. And some detail into his mouth. Try to get that signature sneer of Denathrius in there. That's pretty good. Go ahead and move on to, oh, and if you are working on Photoshop, maybe you should save every once in a while. Go ahead and go on to step 7. Again, more refinement. Go ahead and make sure we get his fancy earring in there. And we'll also kind of work on more of Denathrius's facial structure. So kind of using this line as a guideline, we're gonna pull his cheekbone out some. And then as well as his jaw, or sorry, his chin. And we'll erase what we don't need. Looks pretty good. And make sure we show that same cheekbone on this side, that same plane change. And then, let's see, kind of work on this horn a little bit more. We're gonna do add a little bit more shape to this horn so it doesn't feel as flat. And you'll also want to be able to show that's coming forward, scooping back. Redraw that again, why not? Okay. It's looking pretty good. I'd say I'm about ready to move on to the final step. Step 8. In this step, it's just kind of the finalizing stage. We're just going to continue to clean and refine areas so we can kind of get it to a nice sharp drawing. I like to work from the eyes and I guess mostly the face out. The face being, is typically the it's typically going to be your focal point in a portrait drawing like this. So so we usually want that to be the part that is the cleanest and the sharpest. So we'll spend a little time kind of cleaning up the face a little bit. So everything that we've kind of laid out gives us enough to kind of work with and edit. So for me, the way I work, I need to have, and I think most people work this way, you need to have something down in order to refine your vision, right? So so just kind of get started, get it going. It's kind of the best way to get better at this. I think. Try not to get too in there. You know, we're not making a super detailed piece. I think the more zoomed in there you get, the you kind of forget the whole drawing. So you don't want that. You want to make sure the whole drawing is kind of on the same page. So don't get too locked in on any one spot. And it's helpful to kind of also rotate your drawing. Being able to see it from different angles gives you changes your perspective on it, so you can kind of see any issues that are maybe not as evident when you're looking at it from an upright angle. So always be sure to kind of check against your what you're looking at. I'll often in Photoshop I'll kind of flip my image back and forth. Oops. And you can kind of do something similar with your own drawings at home by, if you're working with pencil and paper, you can do so by standing in front of a mirror. That helps. I do that sometimes if I'm not working in Photoshop. Okay, we'll go ahead and add a little bit more detail, or a little detail into the horns too, so you can kind of give them a little form with that. Since this is going to just be a line drawing, you can use line and texture to give it form. And then we'll go ahead and do a little drop shadow here, where the neck meets up with Denathrius's head. And we'll kind of do the same thing over here with his ear. I think we're getting close to the end here. This stage of the drawing, I mean, you really spend as much time as you want. If this is a level of finish that you're happy with, you can call it quits here. If you want to spend another hour refining this until, you know, it becomes a more realistic image, you could do that too. Choice is yours. But I think we're gonna say this one's done here pretty soon. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for joining me for this segment. I had fun. I hope your Denathrius came out pretty good, and I hope you have a good one. Take care.